how do we get to a point where you say, we do not get trained in it? I think we, most of us, grow up, have that intuition, have that, sixth sense, whatever you want to call it. But at some point we probably learn to put that away, right? Because someone else or some data or something else shows this. Go back to your elections. If you look at the polls around the world, they might show different results
Yep.
than actually the outcome. You can say the same in terms of the pandemic. Had people known that they would have, and then you could say, well, there were actually signs. There was actually people that, or companies that did have it on their risk register. You know,
Yep.
mm, I'm both in terms of that training, but also in terms of how do we, I was almost saying, get it back, and how do we trust that, where the whole world, and especially now with AI and ChatGPT. If I ask ChatGPT and it says I should go one way, but I believe something else. It's hard to make that, but that's the role also as directors. So sorry, a lot of questions. How do we either train or get back to and actually trust that sense making, and what are the results that's come out of that?
Things. I want to start with the intuition because you started with the intuition. Intuition is a subtle nudge which your unconscious mind gives to your conscious mind. Okay. How many people listen to the intuition? How many people come to know that they have got an intuition is a topic of discussion. We can discuss on separately on. But we are all born with intuition. This is my personal theory. I may be wrong. I'm not a scientist. We are all born with intuition. Now, when our intuition comes to us, most of us do not know that we got an intuition. Right? So that is stage one. Second stage is some people come to know that there is an intuition, but they do not understand how to interpret that intuition, positively, negatively, or whatever it is. Third set of people who understand they get intuition, they read that intuition, and they know what to do with that intuition. And now my sense making goes towards that third level of intuition, right? Which is knowing that I'm getting some message, I'm getting a subtle nudge, and that is sort of a message given to me. Hey, there is a danger here. When we get the intuition, highest amount of intuition we all as a human being get when we are in a danger. That's the easy way of interpreting the intuition. Most of us come to know about intuition when there was an accident, when there was floods, when there was earthquake. We all talk intuition because your human body is made in such a way, your brain acts in such a way that your intuition tells you that there's a danger, get out of this place, something like that. Whenever you get an intuition or you get a feeling that you are getting an intuition, immediately write down on a piece of paper what is that intuition coming. Intuition remains in your top of mind hardly for few seconds. It disappears very quickly. So you need to write it down, or you need to, whatever way you want to remember it, put it on your mobile phone or put it on your iPad or paper or whatever, or you just record it. Second thing is, now based on that intuition, what action you have taken? Have you listened to the intuition or have you gone against the intuition? That's stage two. If you have gone against the intuition, means you need to do a litmus test whether your intuition is working in your favor or is going against you. That's stage two. Third thing, you create your own algorithm or you create your own trend that my intuitions are 70% of the time correct, 30% of the time wrong, whatever it is. And then start using the intuition. So this is all about intuition. Now coming to the sense making as a process, how do the skill of sense making make use in a corporate world or as a leader? I would first simply say that first is you have to identify the people in your organization who are sort of sense makers for you. That's the stage one. Because you yourself can be a sense maker, but it's a large world. You're a big company, you have multiple global businesses, right? So you alone cannot do everything. So you need to identify the people who are the sense maker and ask them to get multiple data points, information points from different sources. Like go and attend let's say, World Economic Forum meetings, go and attend the United Nations meetings, go and attend the Confederation of Industry, multiple chambers of commerce and all of things. Get the information from there. And not only the presentation, the informal talk between the people. That's the real data, that's the real information, right? Second stage is once that multiple data sources information comes to you, you as a leader need to sit with these people and ask them to interpret it on a drawing board or on a slides or a screen that, okay, what is the information you have got? Then you have to bucket that information into different buckets. And then very important is, I call it cleaning the information, cleaning the data. In that information, in that data point, there might be some information which is not useful. So you remove the bad information or you cleanse that information and reorganize the good information. So now you are having the prioritizing the good information which is applicable to your business. Then you start using this good information by way of extrapolating different scenarios. Now comes the scenario analysis. How, okay, I got information that in this particular country, there is a change in tariff happening. So if a tariff is changing and impacting me or my business, create multiple scenarios. What are the various options available to me, right? So this is how you start interpreting the information, explore multiple scenarios through a scenario analysis. And we have multiple tools nowadays because of technology and all those things. You can put the information, you can extrapolate the data and all those things. Once that data is collated or converted into a sort of, I use your word now, insights and foresights, right? Some sort of foresight you're getting from that information, you need to start validating that information. You may be wrong because it's only a source of information coming from somewhere else. You need to validate it. Because if you have to take a decision based on that information, you need to validate. So start validating from external sources again, that what you are saying is correct or not, or maybe you have experts, you have board advisors within your board, or your board of directors within your board. Go and ask them that this is what I am seeing. What do you think? So use your board, use your advisors as a sounding board. And now based on all these things, you finally come to conclusion that what am I going to do based on this now? And that's the last stage of sense making. Of course, implement, execute, and do the change in your business process or whatever you want to do. But don't stop here. It's a continuous process. Sense making is not a one-time activity like you do your financial planning and budgeting once in a year. It's a continuous process. So every leader or every company needs to keep making sense of what's happening around every 3 months, every quarter. I'm not saying every day, every month, but have those meetings once in a quarter. Do some sort of brainstorming session. One very important thing which I realized when I was running an organization is that sense making is not only at the top level. It's not only a leader's prerogative, right? Sense making can happen even at the bottom of the pyramid also. So go to your shop floor, go to your workers, go to your service providers, right? Ask them what's happening in the industry, what's changing in the market. I'm sitting in the corporate office. I do not know what's happening on the ground. So go and ask them. And that's why you need right type of people who can collect the data for you from multiple sources, which could be at the bottom of the pyramid, middle of the pyramid, or the top end of the pyramid. External experts, even academia. A lot of academia gives you very intelligent information, which otherwise you may not get. So keep relations with academia. Go and talk to professors, go and talk to researchers, innovators. And at the end, I would say that sense making is a skill, but I call it, it's also art and it's a creativity. Because it's you have to create something out of nothing. That's number one. And number two, everyone is not able to do that. That's why it's a creativity or it's an art.
So, and I can't help thinking when I worked with IKEA, Ingvar Kamprad,
Yep.
who was, taking trains, wanted to be buses, wanted to be with the many people to understand the need to understand what are they, talking about, etc. And have we lost that as leaders? And especially, you can say we are now in a world where you saw the CEO of a healthcare insurance
Yep.
being shot on the street, right? So
Yep.
are we in a world where we as leaders have sitting in our Eiffel Towers and not really understanding what's going on? And will this situation widen where, I can see security people now being, so it's even harder to have that conversation. And so what can we do to get back to actually listening, right? I mean, you have heard me say that so many times. Let's use our ears, listen. Um, so yeah, love your thoughts on that.
I agree to an extent. The current leadership is more, I won't say sitting in the Eiffel Towers or whatever air conditioned offices, but I think what is happening is the human aspect, or let me come to the emotional intelligence, and Daniel Goleman, and managing people or managing emotions of the people and all those things, and listening, 4 levels of listening. I don't want to get into that, but I think because of the technological developments, we have lost that skill of meeting people, talking to people, getting information out of those people. We think that every information is available to me on ChatGPT or Google's of the world, but it's not necessary, right? A lot of information is not available. And most important is, how do you make I always use the terminology 360-degree view of your business. How do you make a 360-degree view of your business? Maybe not sitting in the room, even not only getting people who are sense makers to you. You as a leader also need to move out of your office, meet the people, multiple stakeholders. And that's what I always say, that start from the bottom of the pyramid and then all the way come. Because getting information from the top is comparatively easier for a leader. Getting information from the bottom end of the pyramid, maybe language, maybe culture, multiple things are there. And getting that information globally, collating it, cleansing it, and having a right type of people who will get you that information. And I even sometimes I say you need to debate that information, right? Not all the time that information is correct, or you may have a different perspective on that information. So debate and discuss with your own people, then interpret that information based on your discussion, and getting the right type of people on a regular basis to collect this information is also very, very important. And I always say that based on this information, very important is that a leader need to create an inspiring narrative. You cannot only think that information is coming to me is all negative. The role of a leader, and you know it better than me, of course, inspire people. So create an inspiring narrative of that information. How to make sense of that and create an inspiring narrative and run the organization or run the business is also very important.
Sunil, there's something else I'd like to also explore. And,
Mhm.
again, you lived and worked in so many countries, which also means a lot of different cultures. But you have so many different views, so many different cultures, so many different perspectives around the world. And as a global chair, right? As leaders of global companies, where there might have been a tendency saying, here is how we do things, like it or not.
Mm.
But that's not sense making. Tell me a little bit about, from a global chair perspective, how do you make sense? But not only how do you make sense, how do you also make sure that you have that in all different countries, but at the same time, can say, well, yes, this is our company.
I very often talk of a concept called cultural competence. As a leader in today's globalized world, a leader needs to have a cultural competence. I lived in 5, 6 countries: Africa, Middle East, Singapore, Southeast Asia, India, and of course, traveled maybe 40, 50 countries. Did business with most of the countries in the world. And of course, we all famously say that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I have interpreted it very, very carefully, that culture is very important. And when I talk about the culture, I do not only talk about the language, the food, and the way we wear the clothes, the way we conduct the meetings, but there are a lot of subtle things in cultures. Right? For example, I'm giving Or let's take McDonald's example, which I have given in my book also. Let's talk about that. When McDonald's came to India, they have thought, of course, they have done market research and they have done all those basic things. Being a big multinational company, they have tools, resources, access. But the decision to start or the decision to create a recipe for a vegetarian burger, that was like out of box. Nowhere in the world McDonald's had a vegetarian burger. And McDonald's is known for beef burger, right? Mac or a Big Mac. Now, beef is not a so-called acceptable product in India. So McDonald's have to create a vegetarian burger. But I'm not stopping there. That was the step one. But the step two, which is not known to many people, and which is where I say that McDonald's has made a lot of sense making in doing that at that point of time, having a separate kitchen for a vegetarian burger and for a non-vegetarian burger. Now, that is a nuance which no one would have told you, right? Because it is a belief, a person who is vegetarian, he would not like to have a product cooked on a non-vegetarian, let's say, hot plate or whatever you want to say, right? So that smell and all those. So McDonald's created two separate kitchens within their kitchen. One is vegetarian side and other is non-vegetarian side. Cost of setting up a restaurant was gone up substantially because of that, right? But it was a very, very smart decision by McDonald's. And I always quote this wherever I go in the world, right? This is a great testimony of sense making. How many companies, how many people will be able to do that? So that is one example as far as, and this is again a culture, right? Knowing that in this culture, vegetarian burger is accepted, it's stage one. But knowing that you have to cook it separately, that's the real cultural nuance, or that's the subtleness of that cultural difference, which McDonald's were able to find out. So one need to be very, very careful with that when you are working on in a global organization. So doing your homework, let's say, for example, if I travel to country X, and I can't just go and start doing the business, right? I need to understand what are the cultural nuances there. When I say something like this, what does that mean to those people?